Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello. Alrighty, we are 50 strong. Awesome.
That's
So
great.
welcome everyone. So we'll start in a few minutes. We'll just let a few more people file in.
Mhm.
So just as a reminder, today we're mostly going through some logistical processes. So we're going to be installing Python, installing VSCode, and maybe if we have time, we'll we'll write our first Python script. Yes, good night. So for now, while we're still having people file in, I'm just going to be showing a little bit of Python stuff to show what we can kind of do as we get um, more experience with it. So can everyone see my screen? Let's see, open the chat. Awesome. So one thing that you can do with Python is computer vision. And so computer vision is actually something that I'm in charge of at UAS. And basically what it does is it takes the pixel values of an image and converts it into information that the computer can understand. So for example, we take this picture that will inevitably become very blurry. You can see that there's a few items on the photo. And this is kind of what your security systems do in your homes. If you have your cameras, like a Ring or anything like that, it basically gets all those pixel values throughout the image and tries to say, okay, there's a bunch of edges here. If it's a bunch of gray, then it's most likely going to be something like a road, for example. So that's just one thing you can do with Python. This is more of a artificial intelligence application of it. And let's see, let's check out how many people we have. So we have 65 people. Sahas, do you think we should be ready to start?
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and get started around 6:05, just to make sure we
Awesome.
have everyone.
Sounds great. So before we start the introductions, we'll just go through some cool things you can do with Python. There are a lot of weird things if you've ever learned C++. There are a few cheats, I'll call them, to do with things like loops and generally just writing your code a lot more simply. So let's see what shows up here with Python versus C++ code. Let's see if there's any comparisons we can make. Let's see, that is here it is. So, for example, where is it?
Are we focusing on OpenCV today, or are we doing something more general?
So we're actually working on only the standard library of Python for now. But while we're getting ready to start, I was just showing a little bit of what you can do in the long run with Python. Yeah, good question. So anyone who's experienced with C++, you can kind of see on the left, that's your general print statement. Or if you're not familiar with C++, you can see how many lines of code there are. Versus in Python, you literally have one line of code and have a new line at the beginning for the heck of it. And this does the exact same thing. It prints out hello world into our terminal, and it makes it way simpler. So this is one of the reasons that Python is really good to learn if it's your first programming language or if you're not a computer science major. But that being said, it is 6:05, so why don't we go ahead and start? Is that okay, Sauce?
Yeah, of course. Let's go ahead and get started.
Awesome. All right, I will stop sharing and let you take the wheel. And let me know when you're ready to record, Sauce.
I think I already started the recording, actually.
Oh, really? Awesome.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, well,
let's go ahead and get
formal
started.
start. Yeah. So Well, hello everyone. My name is Scott Vo. I'm a third year computer science major, and I'm the computer vision lead at UAS at UCR. And I've been working with Python for about 3 years seriously, and it was actually my first programming language back in 8th grade, so that was really fun. Um, and so yeah, today we're going through some mostly just installing Python, installing our text editor so that we can get rolling on Thursday. Joining me as my co-host is Sahas as well as our TA, Stephen Dong. And yeah, so I'll hand over the mic to Sahas really quickly for a quick introduction.
Yeah, hello, my name is Sahas. I'm a third year computer science major at UCR. I'm also the computer science lead for UAS at UCR. Some of the things that I'm kind of doing on the team is using Python for pathfinding. So we're developing lots of pathfinding algorithms that allow us to basically navigate our plane to different waypoints using different specific algorithm at the moment we're using is D-star light, if anyone has heard of that one. But yeah, some of the experiences that I have in Python. Python wasn't the first language that I learned, but it was probably, I think it's one of my favorite languages in general with programming because it's just so simple to use and it's very powerful. There's lots of libraries available for it and lots of different things you can do with it as well. Some of the things that I've been doing is I've been creating on the side autonomous applications for the medical industry that allows them to kind of speed up a lot of the work that they do so they can spend more time working with patients instead of doing lots of documentation. There's just lots of really great things that you can do with Python. So yeah. Are we gonna, is it time to get started with our workshop, you think, Scott?
Yeah, I think so. Alrighty. So yeah, before we start, make sure everyone, make sure if you haven't had Python and VSCode installed yet, go ahead and open your favorite browser. If you're on Windows or Mac, it should be fine. We're working with Windows right now, but with Mac, um, most of the instructions will be the same. If you have any questions with the instructions, then let us know. Most of what we're doing will be basically the recommended installation. So most of the time you'll be able to see it and you just click on that and Python will set it up for you. For our uses, we won't need any of the customization. So actually, let's check this out. Does everyone have the ability to raise their hand or make any reactions? Go ahead and try that if you can. Alrighty, awesome. Okay, and let's put those down. So let's use those as kind of a checkpoint system with how far we are in the process of installing. So for example, let's open up python.org really quickly. So in the chat, I'm going to post that. So go ahead and click on that link and raise your hand when you've gotten there. To Aditi, this should be fine. And after we've installed it with the whole class, we'll all test it out together. And if there's anything going wrong, we can all help out with that. Alrighty. So there's about 33 people. I think that'll be good. Alrighty, I will go ahead and put those. Let's see. All right. Okay, go ahead and put your hands down. And okay, so Sahas is going to go ahead and hover over the downloads section on his page. So if you can see his screen,
Yeah.
He's on python.org and he's going to hover over the downloads. Yeah, or you can click it. It's fine either way. You'll have access to the links. Would it break my stuff if I download again? Most likely it won't. So yeah, I wouldn't do it if you already have Python, but if you want to, you can go ahead. And yeah, so now we'll just click on download Python. And right now we're on the Windows page. So if you're working with a MacBook, go ahead and click that Mac OS link right below it. So Sahas, could you highlight that really quickly? Yep, there you go. That's right there. So that'll be how you download the Python. And let's see. Yep. So we'll just wait for a little bit while you all are getting that done. And yeah, so if you're on Windows, we'll go ahead and open up that file. So just click on the bottom left. Alrighty, so let's stop here and have a checkpoint. So raise your hand if you've gotten to this point. Yeah, so we have a question, where did we click? So again, on python.org, we'll go to downloads and we'll click on, if you're on Windows, download Python 3.10.2. If you're on Mac, go ahead and click Mac OS. And once you download that file, go ahead and open it. So in most computers, it'll be in your downloads. Okay, let's see. Let's wait for 10 seconds. If you have any questions or issues, please let us know. We'll try to help you out the best that we can. Alrighty, so once we're at this step, one really important thing to do is click on Add Python 3.10 to path. So this will basically hook up our computer to Python so that we can actually run Python. And this is very important. Quick story time, I spent a good hour or two trying to figure out how to run Python when I was first starting, and it was all thanks to that little checkbox. So if you don't want to suffer like 8th grade Scott did, I would highly recommend clicking that checkbox. Alrighty, and once you've done that, you can just go ahead and click on Install Now, and that'll install with most of the settings that you'll need. And if yeah, more than likely you won't have to put that password in, but if you do, go ahead. So how's that going?
I'm trying to remember what it was.
Awesome. So we do know that even comp sci majors, or maybe even especially comp sci majors, are susceptible to this.
I'm not sure. This might be a problem.
No worries. Let's see. If you'd like, I can go ahead and take over. You want?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sounds good. Okay, so can everyone see my screen? So here we'll be opening that just like we did before, and I'll be adding Python to path and clicking install now, and just saying yes to the prompt that comes up. Alrighty, and awesome. Yeah, thank you for the responses, everyone. While this is happening, does anyone have any questions or any issues that they're having getting to this point? Oh yeah, so we have a question from Aaron. What exactly is path? To be completely honest, I'm not exactly sure what it exactly is, but basically what it does is if you've ever opened your command line or your command prompt, then if you type in something like Python, then it'll try to find something basically it'll try to find a program that's called Python. Now, if you see here, it actually starts a Python session for me. So that means I do have Python installed, and that's because I have it in my path. And if it was not in my path, then it would say something like Python is not recognized. Maybe you need to add it to your path. So if I type in foobar, for example, yep. So that means it is not recognized as a command. Basically, the Windows is saying, I don't see anything in the path called Python or foobar. So I'm going to tell you there's not really anything I can do. Yeah, so I hope that answered your question. Okay, let's see. How's everyone doing on this part? Are you at this setup was successful stage? Let's switch up the reactions. Let's put a heart if we've gotten to this point. All right, awesome. So the next thing we'll do is we're going to install VS Code. So here's a link to that as well. So go ahead and click that link and go ahead and lower your hand, lower your hearts. Let's get rid of those hearts for us. There you go. Awesome. Yes, we have questions for the previous step. Oh, they do. That's awesome. Okay, it says successful. Okay, that's great. Oh. Yeah, so I'll keep watching your question, but for now, everyone who's finished that part, we'll go ahead and download for Windows. And if you don't have Windows, you can click this little down here. Should I select disable path? Let's see. I just close. I think you should. Sahas, could you get a fact check on this? You should most likely close it.
Yeah, you want to make sure that the path is enabled. So
All
just
right,
go ahead and
thank you.
close it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I hope that helped.
I have a quick
And
question.
again, so if you're depending on your operating system, just go ahead and click the download button, depending on which operating system you're running on. I'm on Windows, so I'll just click the Windows button. And it'll start downloading.
If we have PyCharm,
Sorry?
if we have PyCharm, can we just use PyCharm?
Let's see. I think, Sahas, could I get another fact check? Things will most likely be pretty much the same if we use PyCharm.
It will be the same, just the environments will look a bit different, and you might not be able to, the reason why we're going with VS Code is because in the future, if you want to try programming in other languages, it's really great to just, like VS Code is really great for that. But PyCharm should work pretty much the same. If I remember correctly, do you know if PyCharm has a terminal built into it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, then you should be great. It'll work out.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, for anyone who's already installed a Python and has a text editor for it, as long as you have that and you have access to a terminal while you're using it, then you're good to go. And if you don't, then, well, this is the best place to be right now. I really like VS Code, especially if you're learning, because it goes to, or it lets us use a lot of different languages, and it's pretty lightweight, so it's not going to end up laggy or anything. And we have a question. Can we please go to the tab you selected to show the VS Code page? Yep. So once again, here's the link. And depending on which operating system you run, you can click on this little down arrow, and you can see whichever operating system you're running and just download that. Yeah, Jake, that looks, actually, yeah, that looks correct. Thanks for that. And as my UCR apartment internet is finishing up, are there any more questions before we move on? Okay, and I'm going to assume that not everyone's internet is as slow as mine, so we'll just go ahead and open up that executable. And it's going to have our software agreement. You know what to do. Definitely don't read it. And so here's an important part, and let's have a pause here. Let's raise some hands when we get here. Will the assignments be announced via Discord or lectures? So with the assignments, there will be announced on both, and they'll be accessible through the Discord as well as the emails, I believe. And yeah, so there's actually one point I forgot. If you're on Mac OS, this is where it kind of diverges a little bit. We'll get to that in just a second. So if you're on Windows, go ahead and make sure that this bottom check mark is the very important one. We need to add this to path as well. And these two are optional. It basically lets you double click your code file and automatically open it with VS Code. I really like it. I think it's really useful. And you can create a desktop icon if you want. And at that point, you'll just go ahead and click install. So I'll leave that up for anyone who needs that still. And yeah, so the third option, register code as, oh, actually, yeah, that is also something you want to check. And for our Mac users, yeah, so actually, I'm not too familiar with Mac. Is there I think it was a DNG file that gets downloaded or something like a disk? Yeah, go ahead and either type that in the chat or unmute if you have anything with that. It's like an app. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so just like with Mac, or just like with other applications on Mac, you should be able to just open up the file that you downloaded and drag that into the applications folder, as if you were downloading other softwares. All right, and let's put our hands down for now. Okay, and yeah, so if you're on Windows or actually if you're on either operating system, go ahead and install that. Let's wait for a tiny bit. I already have VS Code installed on my laptop, so I won't be clicking that. But if I remember correctly, there should not be any more prompts afterward.
Yeah, after you go ahead and hit install, the bar will just load up. You hit finish, and it'll launch Visual Studios right away.
Awesome, thanks, Sahas. Appreciate it. Okay, and let's do one more round of hands once we finish that section. All right, just a few more seconds. Okay, so let's see. I'll go ahead and open up VS Code, as you should as well. So Visual Studio Code, one of my favorite programs. Now, this might look a little bit different from what you will see on the screen. It'll just have different colors. And that's because VS Code is really nice in that you can install plugins that make the different themes for you. You can install different languages so that your code can get highlighted better. It's just really nice quality of life improvements without having too much weight in terms of computing power to just run the text editor. So it's really nice to have that. And let's have our hands cleared really quickly. And yeah, so if you're still downloading, don't worry. We can come back for that a little bit later. We don't have too much to do today, so we will have a little bit of extra time. Alrighty, and I will move that to here. Alrighty, so let's have one more raise of hands. I think this is one of the last ones. So let's raise your hands if we're at this point already, or if we see something similar. Okay, and while we're doing that, Sahas is going to take over the screen share. We got some technical difficulties worked out. Yeah, so let's see. Go ahead and type in chat if you can see see Sahas's screen. This should be pretty much what you see regardless of operating system. Awesome. Great, great, great. Okay. So is anyone still downloading / installing either Python or VSCode? Alrighty. Yeah, so as you saw Sahas do, you can choose which theme you want. You can have light mode, dark mode, or you can have high contrast mode. Yeah, and you can just follow the prompts. Those aren't too important, so don't worry if you're not exactly sure what to do. Just go in your just go through that, and it should get to this stage that you see right here. All right, and let's have one more hand raised really quickly, just to see our progress. I don't want to lose too many people. Yeah, and if you're having a little bit of trouble getting things installed, don't be worried at all. Just after this process is over, just feel free to speak up or direct message any of the instructors, preferably me, so we can help you out. But otherwise, we're seeing a pretty constant number of hands. So let's move on. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to basically connect Python to VS Code so that we can run Python directly within the text editor. So how we're going to do that is we're going to go all the way to the left side. We'll see 3 squares connected and 1 square kind of off to the side. So that's our extension. So go ahead and click that. And as you can see, we have none installed right now. So that's pretty standard. We don't have anything installed because we got a fresh installation of VS Code. And lo and behold, we have Python at the top. So go ahead and click that big old blue install button next to it, or you can click on the name and click install. Either one works. And again, this one should be the same regardless of operating system. If any of our friends using Mac OS have any issues, please let us know. We'll get that ironed out. How did we get there? Your Zoom froze. Yeah, so if Sahas can circle that a little bit. Yeah, so on the very left of VS Code, you'll see those 3 little squares with 1 square off to the side. That's called our extension tab. So that's where you can get your code themes. You can have code highlighting, a lot of different things, autocomplete. There's even some like collaboration extensions. And yeah, so while that's installing, are there any questions on that? All right. Yeah, hopefully everyone's gotten to this point. These 4 buttons on the screen right now. Let's see. Actually, let's not touch those for now. And we're gonna try doing something really quickly. So on the right side, you have Control Shift, and that is not a quote. That's the I don't remember the name of it, but it's right under the tilde on the top left of your keyboard. So go ahead and do that, or you can go on the top left to Terminal. You can show that Sahas, and click on New Terminal. And that'll open up. And as you can see, you can type in basically anything you want here. So that'll be kind of our communication with our computer as well as the Python scripts. And what Sahas is going to type is Python 3. So that's no spaces between the 3 and the Python. And if all goes well, we will be able to start a session of Python that'll help us test things out. Oh. Interesting. Okay, so it looks like Microsoft has changed how you run Python within their command lines. Oh, never mind.
Python is fine.
Run Python without the 3. Yeah, that's one thing with computer science tools. A lot of them, they change versions very quickly, and sometimes they don't tell anyone. So that's something that's fun. And can we have a hand raise to see if everyone's gotten to this part of the installation?
To know that your Python has properly been installed, when you type in Python, you should see all of this text, the version of your Python. Mine is 3.10.2, and these little 3 arrows pointing to the right will let you know that you can now write in your terminal using Python code. So if you see all of that, you're good to go.
Yep. Alrighty. So typing Python still gives you the Microsoft Store. Okay, let's work that out. So anyone who's already run the Python, go ahead and type in quit with 2 parentheses. So I'll type in the chat and press enter. If you don't have terminal at the top or there in the middle on Mac. You might be able to just search up the normal terminal on your Mac. So if you give me 1 second, I can search that out.
Yeah, so if for some reason VS Code is kind of bugging out and not letting you access the terminal, I recommend you try just searching up terminal on your computer. Searching up terminal on Windows will give you command prompt, And I believe for Mac, it'll just give you terminal. So in that environment, go ahead and try typing in Python and see if the same thing shows up.
Yep. And yeah, I actually got a private question about so if you're on Mac and it says something like the default interactive shell is now ZSH, don't worry about that. That's mostly basically a type of terminal formatting that lets you, well, it basically makes your stuff prettier. So if you have that, that's great. If you don't worry about it. It won't change any functionality at all, as far as we're working. Okay, and so if we're going through that, the folks that had issues with opening the Microsoft Store, how's that going? We can go through that if needed. Alrighty. Sahas, could you go ahead and run Python 3 and see how that shows up? Siddhartha, should you update your version of Python? If you want, most of the things that we'll do during this course won't be super reliant on the most updated parts. The nice thing about Python is that that very last number, so that 0 for you or that 2 for us, isn't super important. And yeah, so as long as you have that 3.10, that's the most important part. And yeah, so if I am correct, oh yes, so if we're on Microsoft Store, it might not add to path directly, so we will need to add that. So we can go through that as well. Yep, no problem. And let's see, once we let's see. So for those of you who are doing the Windows 10 installation or the Windows Store installation, let's how are we doing? Is everything working? Do we need to add to path? Yeah, so after you install that, try running Python or Python 3 again, see if it works. Yeah, if you're having any issues, should select get. Yes, you should click on get or install or anything like that on the on the Microsoft Store. When you download the Python extension, Pylance and Jupyter were also installed. Yeah, so those are just kind of like different ways to use Python. We won't be using those in this class per se, but those are useful tools if you're working with a lot of data. So I would leave that in. They're not too intensive on storage, if I remember correctly. You just tried the terminal and it worked there, but not on VSCode terminal. Yeah, I think that could happen pretty often. Yeah, so don't worry about using the VSCode terminal. It's basically just a plugin that looks a little bit more integrated. If the regular terminal only works for that, then don't worry about that. Windows Terminal recognizes Python installation, but not VS Code. So if it works at all, then that should be fine. If you want to try it to see if if Python works in VS Code like that, then don't worry about it. Or then sorry, go ahead and try that. But regardless, as long as it works in one of the terminals, go ahead and use that one. Even if it doesn't work directly in VS Code, VS Code will still be able to download, or to edit and save your files.
And also a little point, we're also going to be holding office hours on Discord. The times are still to be determined. We're going to kind of put out a poll to see available dates for everyone. So if you guys have any questions with the installation, you can hop in during those office hours and we can help you out a bit more personally there.
Yeah, and Jose actually brings up a really good point. This is the first rule in IT. Have you tried turning it on, off and on again? So go ahead and try that if it's not working out for you. Otherwise, it should be okay. Yeah, and at this point, we'll do one last hand raise, I think. This will actually be the last one. What will we get after typing Python? It'll just basically have 2 right angle brackets. Oh, sorry, 3. So that'll let you start doing Python commands if you want to do that. Otherwise, you'll write them in files so you can have a little bit more of a permanent version of your code. Yeah, and again, go ahead and raise your hand once you finish. If you have any issues, this is the time to ask. Trust me, you're probably not alone if you're having an issue, because some things with installing Python and VS Code can be pretty finicky. That's just kind of the nature of the craft. Would Spider be okay too? Yeah, so I'm not actually too familiar with Spider, but as long as you can change your code and run it, then Spider would be fine. Actually, let me search that up really quickly.
And while we're waiting on that, once you guys have typed in Python, you can actually get ready to start trying out some Python codes already. So just to see if it works, why don't you guys follow along with me? One of the most popular and most widely used function in Python is actually the print function. So to use the print function, first of all, make sure that your terminal, you typed in Python and you got those 3 angle brackets pointing to the right. Go ahead and type in print, and then instead of parentheses, and those parentheses, we can, which is basically what we put in for our function to work, we can include something like a string or a variable or something. We'll kind of discuss how all this works. So let's go ahead and do a string. To do strings, just put double quotation marks, and inside them, we'll put hello world. Once you have your command written out, which is just print parentheses, quotation marks, hello world, hit enter, and you should see hello world gets printed out again on the next line. So if you got that working, that means Python is working great, and you should be able to continue on with the rest of the projects. And we can also mess around with a few other things, like we can create variables. To create a variable in Python, pretty easy. You just go ahead and type in a letter or something, a phrase that'll represent what you want to store. You set use the equal sign for assigning, and let's say I want to set it equal to 15. And so x equals 15, hit enter. So now I have a variable. If I just type in the variable and hit enter, it'll print out what that variable is storing. So just a few small things that we can kind of start doing in just the terminal itself. Later on, for the next phase or the next day, we're going to start to actually use files to write all our Python script in and then execute all of them in one go instead of kind of doing it line by line like that. But yeah, were you able to find the answer, Scott?
Sorry, for Spider?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Spider is okay. It does look like it's a little bit more advanced. So if you haven't seen it before, don't worry about it. Go ahead and just use VS Code or whatever you're more comfortable with. But if you do have Spider and you prefer to use that, then by all means, just go ahead. I'm not too familiar with it, but it should be okay. And for the Mac users, if you get something in your terminal that says the default interactive shell is now ZSH, that's basically saying you have a different way to template or format your command line code or your command line commands, and it's mostly a visual upgrade. So if that happens, that should be fine. we enter through the terminal, are they saved to the computer, or does it reset after each Python session? So yeah, so if are you talking about putting the x equals 15, for example? Oh yeah, so yeah, this is kind of a really temporary for testing way they use Python. So yeah, once you do that quit, as Sahas was showing, if you try to return x again, you actually notice that it's not in your memory anymore. So it'll say that it doesn't exist. Yeah. Alrighty, and
Oh, quick side note, another great kind of little terminal tool you might want to start using if you have too much text in your terminal. If you just type in clear and then hit enter, it'll clear your terminal, and you're like kind of have a fresh terminal not really a fresh. You can, in most terminals, you can kind of scroll up and see all the stuff that's hidden, but it gives you the illusion of a fresh new terminal to work with.
Yeah. Kind of like shoving everything in your closet, so
essentially.
You guys don't see you with the dirty room. And if your code executed correctly, great point. Everything has been installed correctly. And yeah, just type in clear, and it'll basically, well, clear your entire terminal or what you can see of it. And if you close the app without typing quit, don't worry about that. It'll just Python's pretty robust. It'll close automatically. How do you open a terminal in VS Code? Assuming you're on Windows, go ahead and go to that top left area and you'll see terminal, and you can click new terminal. Otherwise, you can go to your whatever your search for your program is. So on Windows, it's your Windows key, and on Mac, I believe it's your command or the spotlight, and you'll type in terminal. Yeah, and one thing to note is that yeah, so you won't be able to type in clear while you are in that Python. So if you have those 3 sideways carets, you won't be able to. You'll have to quit first. Yeah, so Sahas, if you could show that really quickly with the while we're in Python. Yep, no worries. Okay, so is anyone having any trouble with that? All right. So we have about 10 minutes left. We can get through a little bit of the conceptuals of Python. We won't be doing any actual code or any content for now, but it's just going to be a really quick overview of how Python works. So as Sahas was talking about earlier, we can actually start on getting our first file open since we have a little bit of extra time. And for those of you who are still installing, if you have any questions, please let us know. We have multiple people on call that are going to help you out if they can. Feel free to direct message Sahas, me, or Stephen Dong as well. He's our TA. We'll be able to help you out. For those of you who have finished installing, go ahead and take a look at Sahas's screen, and you can feel free to follow along, or you can just watch and enjoy the chaos that'll ensue. But that being said, we'll just start and open our first Python script. So what we do is near our start, we'll click on new file. And here we can type in anything that we want. So here we'll type in, let's do first script.py. So we'll have an underscore just to separate the words .py. So for anyone who's not super familiar with computer science or with programming, generally we do try to avoid putting spaces in our file names, just so it's a little bit easier to format and to code with later on. And once we have our file name, we'll press enter. Yeah, and as Jake's saying, you can also use camel case. So for reference, what we used was called snake case. So it was first underscore script .py, and whereas camel case is first script.py without any underscores and with a capitalization instead. So that's mostly preference. from my experience, I've seen it more common to occur to be snake case or with underscores in the workplace, but it at the end of the day, it's just based on what you or your company wants to do.
So for
And
some reason on my end, I wasn't able to get the file to open. So here's another way you can pull this off. Over here on your Explorer side, there should be an option that says open folder. Then go ahead and click that. I usually put stuff in documents. So I create a new folder already in documents. I'll go ahead and actually rename that. 1 second. Rename. Let's try just clicking on this. Yeah, and we'll call this Python. Select folder. Access. Oh, that's probably because we're trying to do that in OneDrive. 1 second.
yeah, so again, just like Sahas did, I'd recommend making a folder if you can, just to hold all of your Python files. There are going to be quite a few, especially if you're doing those assignments or following along with us in future lectures. And it's nice to stay a little bit organized. I can't say that I'm super organized myself, but it's one of those do as I say, but not as I do things. I'd say 80% of comp sci majors have terribly disgusting file systems. Yeah,
I'm also one of them.
yeah, and here's one thing that is really important. Remember to put that .py at the end of the file, regardless of what you name it. This is how your computer understands that you are making a file that you're aiming to use with Python. Otherwise, it could just take it as a text file or something like that.
So what I'm going ahead and doing is in my Python folder, I'm going to click on new file button, which should be the first one to the right of Python. And I'm going to write first underscore script dot py, and there we go.
Yeah, and if you see that little picture of a double snake, which is basically the Python logo, it'll let you, or that means you did that correctly. And if you created the file and you didn't get a prompt on where to save it, don't worry, you can actually right click or 2-finger click if you're on a laptop on the file name on the very left. And you can click on open in Explorer.
So could you run that again? Oh, just
Yeah. So click on so you can click on reveal in File Explorer, and you'll be able to see where that is. And I believe the same thing should work on Mac. If it doesn't, then any of the Mac using folks, please let me know. And from there, you can move it wherever you want and reopen VS Code into that folder.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I did first script.py and it didn't show, I didn't get the window to where to save it as. And when I went to the Explorer, it didn't, I said open file, but it didn't show me what file I'm on.
Let's see. So
let's see, one solution you can do, if you want to kind of just start from fresh, is you can click on file right next to the VS Code symbol, and you can try doing an open folder, and then you can kind of mess around in your directory to where you want to build your Python folder, and you can just right click somewhere, click on new folder, and then name it Python. And then once you click into it, you can just select that folder. And that should hopefully add that into your VS Code environment. Once you're done with that, then you should be able to click on the new file button and create the first script.py file. So see if that works.
Yeah. And while that's going on, let's see, you might have to leave soon. Will there be an appointment or assignment posted on Discord? Yeah, so that's a great question as we're closing off soon. We actually don't have an assignment for today since it was mostly installation. I don't think any of you would like to write any documentation on how to install Python for beginners. If you do, feel free, but we won't be accepting those as submissions. So for today, just relax and enjoy your newly installed program, and we'll be able to continue on Thursday. Yeah, and while we have a few minutes left, we can do a little demonstration on Python. How do we pull out the terminal once I created the first script? My terminal disappeared. Yeah, so again, on the top left, you can click on New Terminal.
And hold on, let me go ahead and get the Discord link for those of you who don't have access to our Discord. So go ahead, and that is our Discord for Python course. So
Yeah.
go ahead and feel free to join that.
Yeah, and one quick announcement for the Discord. As you file in, or if you've already joined, go ahead and change your profile name to be your first and last name. So how you do that is, actually, how do you do that? I believe you right-click yourself, right?
Yeah, you can right-click yourself, and then there should be an option under profile. No, is under profile? Yeah, it should be under edit server profile, and then there'll be a nickname option.
Yeah.
And one quick announcement that we'd like to make is on our Discord and also through email, we're going to be posting assignments. On Discord, actually, we're going to be posting all of the assignments. So those of you who feel like you have a little bit of experience with Python and want to go ahead and try the assignments, you can go ahead and start trying them out. Every now and then, we're going to have a Google form where you can submit them. We'll take a look at them. Not really do a grade, but just make sure we want to check if everything's working accordingly, give any tips, hints, or otherwise with those projects, and then kind of give you back some feedback for that.
Yep. And we have a question, how will attendance be taken? So while we won't be explicitly taking attendance, we will be able to see, we will be able to see who's joining the Zooms. And more importantly, we will be opening submissions for assignments. So that is kind of like your proof that you're coming to class. But yeah, so this isn't exactly, where can we see the upcoming assignments? So those will be uploaded all at the same time on the Discord within a couple of days, as well as rolling out weekly to match the lectures through email.
It'll either be in the homework thread or under materials. Another little tidbit in materials, eventually we're going to start putting little textbook pages that were built by Steve Dong, our TA. They're really great resources that'll kind of help you kind of get a refresher for what we did over any particular lesson, and it can also be really helpful for working on those mini assignments that we give out.
Yeah, and as we're nearing 7 o'clock, so if there's no more questions, I think we'll just do some quick, really quick demonstrations if you want to stay. If you have to go or if you're busy, then yeah, I hope you have a great night and thanks for coming. I hope we did a good job explaining how to install all this Python stuff. And you know, I'm really looking forward to showing everyone some Python, and I think I can speak for Sahas as well, but this is a great crowd that we have, and hopefully this is really educational for y'all.
Yeah, thanks for coming, everyone.
All right, and let's go ahead and stop the recording, Sahas, if you can.
Yeah, of course.